My husband has chosen to block sites as a way to stop his addiction. So Anna has a husband that's currently addicted to porn right now. He asked me to place the code as a way to help. I'm not sure about that one, Anna, but I understand it's a team sport. She says, what do you think about this way of quitting versus stopping by his own will? So Anna is also skeptical about that password thing. So I'm going to pass it to Frank, and then I'm going to pass it to Dayani after that. So Frank, as a man, I mean, look at this brother, tall and handsome. You don't seem like the type of guy that's gonna ask a woman to keep the password so you don't go run into the bathroom every time you get the urge.
And I'm gonna take it even further. Should a man talk to his wife about his porn addiction, or is that something he should probably go elsewhere to fix first?
Yeah, there's a couple questions all packaged in here, and I'll do my best to answer all of them. He shouldn't keep it a secret from his wife. No. So he should definitely have her involved in the conversation. I don't think it's a woman's responsibility, and I definitely don't think it's a wife's responsibility to play mother to her husband. And essentially, when you give that responsibility over, that's what you're doing, is you're positioning the power in her to kind of mother, parent over you. The problem I see with blocking stuff, I'm curious to ask Anna if she has children, because I think, if you understand enough about human nature, like when you tell a human being they can't have something, the first thing they want is to figure out how can I get this? I think we can point to scripture to kind of actually in book 2 of Genesis kind of points, this is a part of our nature. God created Adam and Eve. Here's the garden. You can have everything except for this one tree. The minute God's gone, that's exactly what they want. So I think that's innate in our wiring, that when we're told we can't have something, we immediately are going to want it more. So from speaking to the husband that is struggling with it, I don't think that's an actual productive, long-term, effective solution. Because you may be able to go without looking at it, but you're going to be wrestling inside and be white-knuckling the desire to want that thing that you say you can't have it. Real freedom comes in when you walk into a room that pornography is playing on every single screen in there, and you can sit there and not be triggered and tempted to look at it. That's where real freedom lies. Freedom is not, I cannot have the thing that I say I can't have. So I think from the husband's perspective, he's probably going to continue to struggle. Now, in terms of her playing that role, no, because what ends up going to happening is women created to be mothers, created to parent, nurture, protect of children. Well, if you give that responsibility of you are now in charge of this for me, basically the husband is saying you are my mother in this category. Now you've taken that relationship from what should be male leadership leading to now woman in charge of. So I think that just innately, subconsciously, she's going to lose so much respect for that in time.
I'm so happy you said that, because there's a lot of conversation about vulnerability and how you should be able to talk to your woman's your best friend and you should be able to talk to her about everything. But I think there might be some things that you should just deal with on your own as a man.
Yeah, don't keep the struggle a secret from her. Hey, babe, I've been struggling with this, but you know what? I found Coach Frank. We joined Rebuilt Recovery and everything he's doing over there. We've got it under control. But I want you to know that it is an issue. So I think vulnerability is not, hey, I have these problems and I don't know how to fix them. Like vulnerability is, hey, I've got some problems, but actually what I've done as a man is I've recruited the people in my life that are going to help me solve this, and this is how we're doing. I'm just keeping you involved in it. We encourage all of our guys at some point in the program to bring their wife into the conversation. And the guys that we struggle with the most are the ones that aren't willing to do that. Well, if there's parts of your life that you're keeping from the most important person in your life, then essentially you're living a lie. Right. Like to a certain extent, like there are parts of your life that are not 100% truthful. Definition of a lie.
So I like that. So I like how you actually gave a strategy and some game and vulnerability. Don't just come with the problem. Come with the problem and a solution with your woman, especially if it's something that might have some shame attached to it. That's some game right there.
Shout out to Anna M. No, Anna, I would love to get Anna on the call because I think I just got so many follow-up questions for you. But I will say this, Anna, if you ask the question, then it's probably something that you didn't really feel happy about with him getting you involved in that way. So it's probably some way that you feel about it. And I think as a man, with that kind of problem is really cold turkey is really not the solution.
Yeah. I mean, addiction in AA 12 steps proved this model over 100 years ago. You know, a component of true recovery through addiction is going to be the community aspect. Like, you need other people in your walk, in your journey on you. Addiction feeds itself in isolation, just like all other mental health issues, right? You know, this is why in 2020, we saw a massive spike in depression, suicide, and all addictions, because we're all forced into isolation. So the pathway is always going to be through community.
Right.
And community, I believe, should be with other men. If the men are struggling and if your women are struggling, I think you find a community of other women that you're having regular, truthful conversations about it.
That's exactly what I would say, because when I'm having some issues, I look for another strong man, and not just any strong man, a strong man that's been through some shit. And you've been through some shit. So I actually want to matter of fact, and he needs to hit my man's Frank up. So I'm gonna drop a link specifically for Frank, because Frank actually has a program for this.
Yes.
But Frank, like I said, has been through some things. He's not just a coach that is teaching about recovery because he just did some, you know, surface level research online. He's actually been in the depths of addiction himself. So if you cool with this, Tyshawn, I would like Frank to actually share some of the issues and kind of a bit of his journey on that recovery to kind of where you at now.
Yeah, take us there, take us to where you were at that point and what that looked like.
You know, long story, keep it as short and concise as possible. You know, I'm almost double the age of Deani here, so I'll be 40 this month. I was introduced or saw pornography the first time at 6 years old. Created this curiosity that stuck with me through my entire life. In my 20s, I was working in the wireless industry. You know, I was a very early adopter, probably one of the first 1,000 people in the US to have the color screen BlackBerry, which is when the addiction became really a big problem, because I was working and I had access to, you know, BlackBerry for the younger generation is the original iPhone. It's the first, you know, it's the first, you know, phone that had full streaming digital internet. For me, my addiction in my 20s, I was working in, you know, I was a regional sales manager for a wireless company. So I was all over malls, all over the state of Florida. At that point, pornography became like, there would be basically, like, some people take smoke breaks. I would take pornography and masturbation breaks. I would literally go into big department stores, Dillard's, Nordstrom, where they have these private restrooms, and in the middle of my workday, take 5-10 minutes and just release. You know, through my 20s and 30s, with all the bodybuilding, business, entrepreneurship, all the things that I did, I struggled a lot with mental health, depression, like not really understanding why that was being driven by my porn addiction, because I just thought, like most men did back then, that pornography was something every guy did, and that I was supposed to be watching this, consuming that. I had these other issues because of who I am. That was how I kind of saw it. I shared a little bit about, you know, an entrepreneurship journey that I went on, where I joined some masterminds, got introduced to some really strong men that I'd always been searching for, that really began to shape and have a major influence on me, that led me to coming to my faith in October 2018. So giving my life to Christ really rose my self-awareness, and I began to ask the real tough questions. Like, okay, you say these things, you say you believe in these things, but look at what you're doing, you know, in your private life, you know. So I stopped drinking in 2019, went 18 months completely sober with no alcohol. And then on February 14th of 2019, through a series of kind of vulnerable conversations with a handful of guys, confronted the pornography addiction and said, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm ready to get it out of my life. That led me down the journey of recovery, community, having conversations, beginning to really understand how big of an issue that it was. A few months go by, my brain just kind of reset. I literally saw the world differently. You know, colors became so much more vibrant. My connection with others became so much more deep and intimate. And as somebody that's, you know, always had big dreams and wanted to do things, I said, here's an opportunity to kind of share at least my journey. Like, maybe, because here's the thing, man, is when you talked about personal development, I started reading personal development books when I was 15. Like, because I had, you know, I was overweight. I wanted to be in bodybuilding, but I also have always been curious and have always been a seeker. So with 20 years of personal development, with success in bodybuilding, with success in business and entrepreneurship, yet still struggling with an addiction, I said, well, what about all the guys that aren't reading 1,000 books? What about all the guys that don't have all this? And kind of like you guys said, we need to get this out there.
Right.
That was me. It's like, I need to have this conversation because there's guys out there that need to hear this from me. So in July of 2019, I launched a podcast, shared this story, you know, in a 90-minute kind of first episode. You know, we started bringing on other guests, talking about their struggles. Apple picked us up, kind of threw us on the first page, gained some traction.
Wow.
That led me to really getting guys reaching out. At the time when I launched the podcast, I was running my fitness company and I was the VP of a marketing agency. Like, we're doing big things. We're scaling this company really fast. I had no desire to like get into coaching. Like, no, I'll just do the podcast because I loved it. And I had my business things that I was doing over here. But the more and more that guys reach out to me, and by having a strong network of guys in my life, you know, mentorship and just the right circle, I said, Frank, God didn't take you through this journey to keep this all to yourself. So in January of 2020, we started Rebuilt Recovery.